Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Every time we get together with her, we learn more about this whole intuitive metaphysical kind of thing. But I just learned something seconds before we got on today. And I do know that she's a psychic medium. She does energy healing sessions. She even rolls with a little astrology. She's got everything on her radar. Never knew that she is a medical intuitive. Can essentially read you and give you insight in terms of your health, your medical situation. Whoa, I've heard of these people before. I didn't know that that was part of her. Alisha B is back on the program. I'm like so happy as our professional of the year to dig into this. Welcome, first of all. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. I've heard about the medical intuitive. And
hmm
am I describing it right where you can tap into somebody's energy and potentially tip them off to maybe something they might want to check into or something that might be going on within their body, or is it just some insight?
All of the above. Medical intuitives, one, it's kind of like that energy work, which we discussed. It's an ability to scan someone's body, whether in person or distance wise, and get a basically an assessment. Now, we don't diagnose, we are not medical professionals, but we're a great adjunct person to have on your team because sometimes the tests and diagnostics, they don't really get the full picture. So a medical intuitive does the physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects when we scan. So it's
Hmm.
not looking at one avenue, we're looking at all three at one time to give you
Whoa.
the best all-encompassing version of what's happening so you can get the medical care that you may need, or maybe it's something that you emotionally need to process, and we'll help you on that route. Yeah.
Well, could it be something right down to somebody's trying to figure out why they have some symptoms? Doctors looking into it, initially they just start the tests, and you could potentially say, "Hey, you might want to take a look at this. I don't know if they're missing that." And then you go back to your doctor and say, "You know what? Can you don't they don't need, you don't even have to say that the doctor. I talked to a medical intuitive. You just say." How about running a test on that? Can we do that? Because it seems
Yes.
reasonable and then see what happens.
Exactly. I actually have a story, an example of someone that I helped out in this aspect. For the purpose of the story, we'll call him John. Um, but a family member contacted me because John went into the hospital and doctors couldn't figure out what was happening. They were confused, running tests, and they weren't getting to the root of why John was trending downward, like getting unhealthy. The family was worried he wasn't going to make it through. They couldn't figure it out. They were throwing out all kinds of medications, and he was getting worse. So I connected through the family member, which is one way that I do it is through family or a loved one, gives that direct connect because they hold the image and the person in their mind. I connect through that. And what I got, I actually drew it out and I don't have it in front of me. I drew out the esophagus, the stomach, the lungs were there, and the intestines, and they showed me a pinhole in the intestines. And I
Whoa.
was like, oh, are they checking the abdomen? Is that where you're looking? The person was like, no, no, John doesn't have any medical history with they're not looking at the abdomen at all. And I was like, ah, you might want to look at the abdominal cavity. A few days later, the family member called me and said, oh my goodness, they accidentally, there was a hole due to a colonoscopy he had almost a month prior. Didn't know that a hole had occurred. And so slowly the body was being poisoned and they couldn't find where it came from. They surgically repaired it and John made a full recovery. John's back doing everything he did when he was on his deathbed. Yeah.
Wow. Um,
And so it's just that we just give direction.
I just I've heard similar stories like this. Um, but I'm even more fascinated and intrigued because did you say that you didn't even directly connect with John?
Correct. Correct. So because I do energy and distance energy, again, I have modalities. I can do it while you're on the phone with me. I can do it through a photo. I'm connecting energetically to your face. or through a family member. And that's really for those instances where the family member themselves can't verbalize, can't ask for assistance. And I'm very selective when I do it. I don't read people's energy. I don't read them without permission. But this was an instance when someone's life was on the line. And so I went through the family member that loved John, wanted John to make it. And that was the connection that was needed to get the reading.
Don't do anything on me because I'm changing insurance in about a week and a half. So I just, uh,
Let's not find out. Let's wait.
like, part of me wants to know, part of me doesn't want to know.
Mhm.
It's probably just because I'm changing insurance and I got to make sure everything's all set up. Saving money, great. Um,
That's important.
yes, it is. Oh gosh. Um, is it as simple as just like if we use me as an example, if I, yeah, you have permission, you really do. I got no secrets. And would you just tap into the energy just like that? There's nothing, I don't want to
Yeah.
minimize anything, but it's kind of that's what you're doing. You're just tapping in, seeing what you feel, making
Mhm.
suggestions.
Yes. So normally when I do it, like if I were to do you, I actually close my eyes because what that does is give me the visual representation of your body. Then they kind of take me in like a zoomed in version, right? So they zoom in, say it's again, we'll use the abdomen example from the previous. They'll zoom into the abdomen and then highlight an area. And then I'll feel visceral pain, so actual physical symptoms of the pain and connecting to that. And
Wow.
that helps me get the understanding of if it's physical, mental, or spiritual and which direction we need to go.
Have you ever had a situation where you
Mhm.
didn't want to say something?
Yes, there are many situations like that. But when I give an information to me personally, it's your information to have, not mine. So the only thing I do when delivering it is in the most compassionate way. I never give you something without a way to action it, right? A way to move forward and help yourself. So I won't just say, I don't know, hey, yeah, you're dying. That sucks, and move on instead of being like, oh yeah, so, for again, this instance, you have a hole in your abdomen. You're going to die if you don't get help, or a lot more gentle than that. But I'm um, just trying to say, I won't ever give you something that is very detrimental and something that can be mentally hard to understand without giving you a way to move through what is given to me, because spirit always gives you stuff to help you along.
Well, we all have free will.
Hmm.
So, and anything can change in a minute.
Hmm.
There is no future, right?
Correct.
Doesn't exist.
The only thing we have is now. That's it.
All right. So
Hmm.
you could give somebody some information, their choice of whether they want to pursue it. You don't have to paint the picture. You can just say, you might want to check. I'm seeing a hole. I don't know, leaky gut syndrome.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, but you might want to check into that. And
Yep. Hmm.
that's up to the person to make that decision if they want to do that. Um,
Hmm.
you actually feel pain.
I do. I had one. So in Insight Psychics, we have a professional group, and we were looking on a cold case, reading a cold case, seeing if we could find any information. And in that group and the professionals on that site, we feel it. We're clairsentients, so we actually feel the injuries, the illness, the pain. And this was someone that had passed away. Their case has been resolved, but we felt where the injuries occurred. We could feel it on the face. We could feel it on the neck. We felt the arm being broken. Like we physically feel what's happening.
Mm. So, question.
Hmm.
You went through some health challenges, cancer related, a while back,
Yes.
right? Were you intuitive at that time when it comes to medical type stuff, or you can't do yourself? I don't know. Tell us.
So two things. One, I was not medically intuitive at the time. I was just waking up and started storing all that energy, which we've talked a lot. We got to release that energy. And that's why I'm such an advocate for it because I stored it. And in storing, I actually caused myself illness. Once I figured that out, I uncaused the illness, and here I am today. Um, But also, we can't read on ourselves. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. We don't get readings on ourselves medically. We don't get life readings or guidance personally. I can't ask my guides. And how I like to present it is we can't get cheat codes. Just because we're into doesn't mean we get a cheat code for life. We don't get a simpler life because we have these abilities. We have the same lessons that we have to learn that others are learning. Trials have to be accomplished for us to learn what we need to and to move through our soul path that we created. So we don't get to cheat. We don't get to ask them and be like, oh, we're ahead of you because they told, no, it doesn't work like that.
Hmm. Going to pivot for just a moment. I had a conversation with somebody that said that there is no universe that is doing things for us. They feel we are the universe. We are connecting with ourselves and for the greater good, higher purpose, making it all happen. So I tried to process that, and I'm not really sure. What are your feelings?
I agree with that. So when we talk about universal energy, that's source, our creator, right? Source energy. We are all connected to that energy. We have just long forgotten that we are a part of source. We are one and the same. And so universal energy is not the universe working for you, it's you putting it out to work for yourself. And so when you're putting out negativity, you're working with energy saying, I'm in a bad space, I just want bad space. When you put out the positive energy, you're working with yourself again, universal energy source, you're connecting on that love vibration and beautiful things come out of it. But it's all self-imposed. It's what we manifest, how we project our energy, and what we accept back.
Ah, that hurts because we're doing an injustice to ourselves by not
Yes,
thinking good things, not putting good things out there. But a lot of us do it and we don't even know that we're doing it.
we do. And when you wake up, you start to see the different, you get disillusioned, right? For me, it was things in a corporate environment that was just like, oh my gosh, this is not right. And a lot of times in a corporate environment, there's no avenue to battle that, to fight that. You have to stay in that bad energy and you're just kind of stuck, right? And so when you wake up, you get disillusioned and you say, I need to separate from this. This is not vibing with me anymore and something's wrong. And that's when you start moving through and really calling to you better things and learning how to work with that energy aspect of who we actually are.
Can we ask the spirit team, as I like to call them, spirit
Mhm.
guides around us, to help us with that? Like, help me move forward. Help me see what maybe I'm not seeing.
Yes. So you can't ask for direct, should I take a job, right? Is this job better or that job better? Or, anything that is going to directly impact. But if you're working on growth, expansion of self, call on your spirit team 100% because they're going to give you insights. And again, it's those little things. It's not going to be a big billboard saying, hey, Steve, this is what you need to do. It's not going to be like that. But they will talk to you and they will give you direction. And I know that seems opposite of what I say, we can't get cheat codes, but it's not a cheat code. This is you learning yourself. You're learning to move forward. And that's all lessons. And so that's kind of like an approved thing, for lack of a better word. If you're learning and moving through it, your team is right there. But they won't give you cheat codes on lottery numbers or, a job to pick. Yeah.
How do you know the difference between
Mhm.
your intuition or your spirit guides suggesting or directing?
They're actually the same. We
Hmm.
like to separate them, but your spirit team, when you work with your intuition, when you work with any of the clairs, clairsentient, clairvoyant, that's all one and the same. The way you have to think about it is we go back to that universal energy, right? We are one with the universe. Our team members are the spiritual aspect of that same energy. And so we're working through our energy, through another energy to get to source energy. And we're going to learn to connect straight to source where your team can give you the insights, but you're already there, if that makes sense.
This is what you do. So I wonder how often you connect with your spirit guides.
So in every session, Every session I do with someone, my spirit team is there and I do talk to my guides. Depending on if I'm doing a psychic reading, William, one of my guides, is normally the one to step forward. Love him to death. He was the first one to, I guess, step forward for me and wrote it on an old marquee that said, "My name's William." And I was like, oh, no, no, no. With my energy work, I have another healer spirit guide that comes through and helps manage the energy aspect of it. So you have different guides for different things that you do and different points in your life.
How do you know? I'm going deep here.
Oh yeah, keep going.
And I love that you're plugged in and have views of all sides of this. How do you know what you're getting? Like you just said, William presented
Mhm.
himself as your spirit guide. How do you know the difference between a God or God giving you insight and your spirit guides?
Um, I guess it's a trust. When my guides speak to me, or my angels, or somebody else's spiritual team communicates with me, I know that they are connected to God. So I know that is a message directly from our Creator. That's the communication on how it can reach me because mine, at the moment, I haven't expanded enough to get direct communication from source. I kind of use a middleman, so to speak. And so it's a trust and an understanding that one, the information that I'm presenting is not something that's in my head. It's just not, it's not something I've read, it's not something I know about a person. It is random information that totally makes sense to the person I'm sitting across from. And so I just have to trust that when I feel their energies come in and I pay attention that they are energies of love. So when they come in and when it's from source, whether it's your guide or your angels or, ascended masters, anything like that, it's a love vibration. You feel like you had a hug and you just want to cry because you feel so elevated. That's how I know it's source versus a different type of energy.
So you brought back a memory and what you said that William presented himself some way. So, quick story. This was 18 years ago,
Hmm.
and my son was like 9 months old and found out that he needed major skull surgery. Sagittal stenosis, essentially, it's where the skull fused way too soon
Too
and doesn't allow
soon.
for brain growth. So his brain, he looked like a football, like his head was just growing like this. Um, so now need to pick a surgeon that's going to cut his head open from here to here. Nowadays they do it differently, and a cosmetic surgeon to clean it all up and everything. Doctor after doctor after doctor appointments. Nothing's making sense. Like crazy thing. We're going to peel it this way, and I'm like, this is just intuition. Nah.
Hmm.
Driving back from a an appointment in New York City, and I had just started going back to church. I was like, I do anything at this point. How do you pick
Right?
the doctor that's going to cut your kid's head open, literally? So I'm driving back and I'll never forget. It was on the freeway. It was kind of misty, rainy. It was in August. And I'm just thinking, show me something. All right. I'm throwing, my hands up to the air, whether a God or whatever. And this is before I'm deeper into this journey here. Wasn't even scraping the surface back then.
Hmm.
Wasn't more than 30 seconds later. I look at an overpass. There's a billboard, and the billboard says, "Stephen, do I have your attention now?" Can't make this up. I
That give me
didn't.
chills.
I'll show you what it looked like. I'm getting them too. I didn't. I just remained silent. I'm like, something bigger out there. Shortly after this, picked a doctor, two of them, did a great job. It was not even like 6 hours later. My son's up in the hospital bed, goofing, smiling, as a 9 month old.
Yeah.
And he's the brightest. He started his first year of college. He's, fantastic. Everything's great.
That's amazing.
What this was an ad campaign, I think for Court TV. I'm not really sure, but it was a series where they were advertising the series, but it was the ex sending a message to her soon to be ex. And it was like a typewritten message But all I needed to see was, Stephen, do I have your attention now? And it got my attention, and it essentially woke me up. And if you Google it, Billboard, Stephen, do I have your attention now? You'll see exactly what I saw, because it was sort of a famous campaign. But just
Yeah.
for me to look up after asking, that was my validation. Asking, you shall
Yes.
receive, and wherever it
Yes.
came from, I don't even know. I have a feeling it might have been God, but I'm not after we have been talking about spirit team, et cetera, et cetera. What do I know? All I know is it offered help, comfort. Everything turned out great.
Yes. And you
Yeah.
trusted that it was something, right? You may not have known what it was, but you were like, that's for me. That makes sense. Like I
Not
connect
even,
now.
I didn't even question it for a second. It was just like, yeah, that was for me, and everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
That reassurance, everything is going to be okay. And I've said it from then, I'll say it today. Ask for a sign.
Yes. And I will say that is phenomenal on sign. That's probably one of the biggest return on signs I've ever heard someone have. But there's also a lot of people get it from song lyrics. So pay attention to those lyrics. When you present something, a lyric is going to pop out at you is the best way to describe it. And you're gonna be like, huh, that kind of relates to what I was thinking.
Oh yeah.
No, that's a message. Don't blow it off. Pay attention.
Especially when it sticks with you. Like I get this
Yes.
all the time, and I'm still trying to analyze certain songs months later, not even kidding, picking each line apart. I'm not obsessive. I'm just, there's a reason, and I try to figure out the pieces of the song. Um,
Hmm.
but if it resonates with you, there's a reason why.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Like if it's, I got that song stuck in my head. No, you're being told something. It was, and I think I shared this. I needed an answer. I was at a stop sign, popped in my head, and the Beatles' Let It Be was playing in my mind. What's up with that? There will be an answer. Let it be. Walk through that door. 5 minutes later, after stopping at that stop sign, hearing that song, phone rings. It was the answer. It was the answer. 5 minutes later, and I now
Yep.
have those lyrics on my wall in the other room because
That's amazing. Yes.
let it be. There will be an answer. Um, I, you know, I, Anybody who's skeptical, that's fine. Ride that train.
Hmm.
We have seen these things over and over again,
Yes.
and
Yes.
they're too specific and too quote unquote coincidental.
I agree. I agree.
Mm.
Hmm.
uh, Medical intuitive. If somebody wants to tap into your power and have you read them in that regard, how do they connect with you? Or just anything we're talking about here, how do they find you?
Yeah. So best way is insightpsychics.com/Alisha, or you can text or call me. I do answer. I do reply. 256-469-8111.
I still have not connected with my spirit team like you're William. Still waiting for that to present. But full disclosure, I haven't asked enough.
Yeah, that one, I would say William giving me his marquee, which is a joke I have with a lot of people that are aware of William. It took maybe, I would say like 2 months. And that was the first time I actually connected with a guide. And he blew it up to make sure it was this great experience for me, which terrified me. But it was
Thank
a
you for
dark
that.
room. I was going to bed and he gave me that. And I rolled over and was like, not happening. Not
Wow.
happening.
Wow. Well, you know what? You knew what it was.
I did. I
Mm,
did.
mm.
Mhm.
Fantastic talking with you. Again, I had no idea the medical intuitiveness of you. Super cool. But I shouldn't be
Thanks.
surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. This is you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.